Okay, this project is going to be creating some bases for us to put some reusable dungeon and cavern walls. So what really got me thinking about this project and started on it was the DMScotty's work with cardboard. What I'm doing is I'm using particle board and some, I believe they're called flashing shingles or flashing, something like that. You got to make sure that when you get them that you get the ones that are stainless steel, not the ones that are aluminum, because the magnets won't stick to them. Materials today will be Gorilla Glue and Gorilla Epoxy, and we'll need a hammer to mash this sheet out. So what I'm doing is I'm brushing the area off here first. I'm using the floor of our garage, which is a nice poured base to use. If you don't brush this out, what happens is little tiny pebbles and stones will cause imperfections whenever you pound it out. So it's pretty easy. I'm using a rubber mallet here. I think these sheets are, 49 cents, I believe is what they go for. They're 8 inches by 8 inches. So you may have noticed on the previous scene that the flashing is a little bit smaller than the particle board that it sits on. That's done for a reason. I didn't want to have overhang, or because these things are very, very sharp edges. So now that that's pounded out, we'll move on to the next step. All right, the next step is gluing. So what we're going to do is we're going to be using both the Gorilla Glue and the Gorilla Epoxy. We're going to be putting the Gorilla Glue down first, and that's going to be placed in the center of the unit. This is going to provide the coverage for 85 or 90% of the tile. So what I've done is I've applied it to the center of the tile there. Now I'm going to use a plastic little mini squeegee or little mini cake batter thing, whatever it is. Got it at a hobby shop somewhere. And I'm going to spread it out. Now what I'm going to try to do is get to about 1 inch of the borders. And I want a nice thin amount in here. I don't want this stuff sort of oozing out onto the, outside the where the metal is going to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull a little bit of excess off here and put it on the the next tile and get that ready for build. So once I've got that cleaned off, just a little bit more, I guess. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be applying the epoxy, which is a much heavier binding. So I'm going to apply just a little dab in the 4 areas here, and then I'm going to spread that out to each of the corners. Now the reason I do that is because I want there to be a real good thick or strong bind right at the corners. I don't want the corners edged up. So what I'm doing is I'm actually mixing the epoxy to activate it. That's the way most epoxies work, and Gorilla Epoxy is the same. And I'm moving everything towards the edge, pushing it towards the edge. So if you don't have, you can see that there is some areas that don't have coverage on the inside, but it's real important that the outside has a nice strong bond all the way around. Now I'm doing it over my particle board as well, so if there's any that sort of splashes out on top of it, it's going to be covered with the piece anyway. So I've got it all laid out now. Now I am ready to flip the tile over and place it onto the particle board. Just one last check, make sure we got everything covered at the edges. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place it on here. Now the particle board again is 9 by 9, so that leaves a 1/2 inch gap all the way around, and you got plenty of time to center that up and make sure that it fits nicely. And one final adjustment there, and that is ready to be bound up. What it's actually ready for is clamping. Be clamped up, not bound up. But anyway, before I do that, I just put some wax paper on top and underneath, because sometimes whenever you do press these things together, some will come out. And when I'm making these tiles, I'll generally do multiple tiles at one time, and that being the case, I don't want the tiles sticking to one another. Alright, the base has been clamped, and I'm going to leave this set for about 24 hours until it has time to firm up. Now, if you don't have access to clamps, which you can get at like Lowe's or Home Depot or something like that in the States, the first couple I made, I actually drove the car up on top of a big piece of of wood in the garage to hold them down to piece them together. So the clamping is done. Okay, the piece has been declamped, and you can see it's ready for priming here. Got a nice tight seal all around it, and we're going to put some black primer down first, and then we're going to do a base coat of brown on top of that. Okay, using our handy dandy cheapo Project Source spray paint. It's I think it was 99 cents at Home Depot, so we're going to be using. Give it a good shake because it is kind of cold out here. And I may actually take 2 coats. Get the first one down, we'll let that dry, and come on back and hit it again. Okay, the base coat has been applied, and we'll just do a quick check here, make sure it's nice and dry, and it is. So I'll put the primary color down, which is a brown spray paint. It looks a little bit red here. It's a brownish red color, but the reason I wanted to go with it is because it's going to give us a nice clay-like material that we'll use as our base. Now we'll put some additional colors down with sponges and other techniques, and we'll move on to that next. Okay, so we've got the clay base on there that's dried. So the first color we're going to use is a bittersweet chocolate from my studio. It's a cheap craft paint, about 89 or 99 cents. So what I'm doing is I'm just applying some random patterns on here. Again, these could be trails in some setups. These could be elevation markers in other setups. It's really just to break up the monotony of having a one color flat tile. So what you need to sort of envision when you're looking at this is that they're going to be cavern pieces mounted around it. So depending on how you have the cavern set up, it could be an infinite number of scenarios or selections. So I put some trails in first. Now what I'm doing is I'm coming back through and I'm stippling with a brush, just getting some paint on there and dabbing it down, and trying to rotate the brush in 45-degree increments as I go around. So I'm taking a look and adding a little more darkness to some of these areas. Want to get a little more darker color. And so I think we're pretty good with the first color there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to our second color, which is going to be Pebble. It's an Americana paint. And what I'm going to do is just go lightly over top of the path that I had created in the first level, and with varying levels of pressure on the brush to sort of give it some nice little pattern. And then I'm coming back in and hitting it with a stipple again. And you can see it's really looks a lot better already. I mean, this is something that doesn't need to look like a piece of art. It's really just to break it up and provide some more details to it. Now, the last step here, what I wanted to do is get some white paint, or it's actually cotton ball. So what I'm doing is I'm loading up the cotton ball paint onto the paintbrush, and I'm going to use my finger just to flick it onto the tile. So I've had okay success with it. You can see there's some bigger chunks there, but my goal is to give it the illusion that there's rocks all around the place. So the good thing is you can see there's a big glob, but cleans up pretty quickly, and it is ready to go. So let's take a look and show you some of the configurations that we could do with it on the gaming table. So the great thing about this setup is the fact that it's modular. So I only have 4 tiles here, but with those 4 tiles you can throw yourself a quick modular cavern setup like this. And once done, you can pull that off quickly and throw yourself a standard dungeon corridor setup like this. You may recall at the beginning of the video we talked about the need to use stainless steel as opposed to aluminum for flashing, and this is the reason why.
Inconceivable!
Alright, so that's it for today's build. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like it and share it and subscribe if you haven't already. There's going to be more videos coming soon. The next video is going to be how to make the cavern walls and the dungeon walls here. So again, thanks for stopping by. Please come again and take care, everyone.